Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC Fight Night, Cejudo versus Song. This is the first time in a really long time that I'm kind of excited to talk about this card. This entire card, I'm tearing up right now. No, I'm joking. It's a fucking shit show from start to finish. It starts off so high with a couple weird inconsistencies here and there, but by the time we get to the main card, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, we're on par. We're on track to have not only an immaculate scorecard, but we're on track to have all finishes. Now, I think there is a UFC card where there were all finishes, but that's eons ago. I'm talking about a pretty recent card to have all finishes. And obviously, it just so happens that the Menifield versus Walker fight is the one that just throws it all away. But let's start from the top, because this is where it gets really interesting. This entire card is weird because I dodged every spoiler on this card except for the main event, except the finish was actually not spoiled for me, if you understand what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is I knew Cejudo lost, but I didn't know how he lost. So let's start off from this. Let's start off from the top. I'm thinking to myself, it's Bukauskas versus Cerqueira, right? Fight ends in a KO win for Bukauskas. We're on track. We're already on track. Okay? Ruziboev versus McConico. Second round TKO for Ruziboev. Now we go to the first problem of the night. Veretennikov versus Vanderford. Let's take a deep breath. All right. I scored the first round. First round is for Vanderford. 10-9. Fight ends in a TKO win for Vanderford. That's not the problem with this fight. The problem with this fight is how loose this fight was reffed, on top of the commentary just being aloof. If you don't know by now, okay, Brendan Fitzgerald is in a league of its own. Is in a league of his own with how bad he is as the lead play-by-play guy. He's terrible. He's so bad. I don't even know who does Bellator. I don't know who does PFL. I don't know who does any of those organizations. He should be traded to one of those places, because he would serve them very well. He was terrible on this card. And here's what I'm talking about. Let's start off with the first round, where Vanderford has a takedown with ground and pound for 3+ minutes and a submission attempt. That's not really what caught my eye. What caught my eye was Vanderford gets a takedown. And from the very rip, the commentary, as usual, probably the worst commentary trio out of the bunch. Out of the many mixtures that they do, this is the worst one. Now, before COVID, they were probably the best one. They were a really fun one during fight nights, right? They were really entertaining to listen to. They brought a lot of insight. They still bring a lot of insight, but they, as of recently, they don't seem to pay attention to the intricacies of what's going on in the fight. And here's an example. Vanderford gets a takedown. He gets a takedown, and from the very start, you notice that his fingers happen to be piercing into Veretennikov's eyes. They're piercing into his eyes. I almost thought Priscilla Cachoeira was in the octagon. That's what I thought. I was thinking to myself, oh shit, I didn't know they let Priscilla back into the UFC. Vanderford's fingers are in Veretennikov's eyes. And I'm thinking to myself, is the ref going to say anything? He doesn't. He says, the only time he says something is round 2, where he lightly warns him, careful with your fingers. The entirety of round 1 is filled with Vanderford not being able to control his head, meaning every time he's pinning his head against Veretennikov's head, he's kind of lightly headbutting him. Over and over and over again. That continues into the second round. The fingers over the eyes continues into the second round. The finish then happens, where the finish is what it is. He's not moving. He's not getting out of the position. The ref only one time tells him to get out of that position, unlike a great ref like what's his name? a lot of them, that would usually go move fighter, move fighter. I thought that was the standard, is screaming move fighter. Instead, this guy just decides, let me just watch him get hit, even though the majority of those shots aren't really hitting him. I'm not complaining about the finish. The finish is fine because he's not moving out of the position. It's a fine finish. It's a fine stoppage. The core issue is when he gets up after being fouled in the first round, in the second round, he gets up and he pushes Vanderford. And just me watching, I knew why he was mad. He was getting fouled the entire time. And here comes the commentary, because they're too busy reading the stat books. They're too busy looking at the advanced stats. They're too busy talking about some other shit that doesn't fucking matter, that they weren't able to pay attention. They're thinking, oh my God, why is Veretennikov mad? It's not his fight, the foul was stopped. No. How about you watch the fight and understand that he was getting fouled the entire time? Brendan Fitzgerald. No, that doesn't happen. He doesn't seem to understand that. So guess what we do? We just accuse him of being a hothead. Now, should he have pushed him? Obviously not. He definitely shouldn't have pushed him. There was no need for the shove. But that's why he was mad. Then on top of that, the commentary, I forget who, probably Fitzgerald, not Fitzgerald, probably Bisping, is calling for his fucking job. As though he's like Paul Daly, as though he fucking attacked him or some shit. No, he pushed, he shoved him. He shoved him. It really wasn't that serious. This is where my frustration landed, okay? This is where my frustration landed. We're starting off there, all right? But here's the good news. We're on our way to an immaculate scorecard. So let's move on to the next one. Simon versus Basharat. He wins by KO. It doesn't look good for Simon. It looks like he's on his way to losing a 30-27, maybe a 29-28 to Basharat, just off of the strikes. That's the way it's trending. And then he knocks him out. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful KO. I hope he got paid. I don't know if he got the bonus. So that's what happened. Now we're going to Abdul-Malik versus Klein. 10-9 in the first round. Klein is outstriking him, right? Abdul-Malik is basically stalking him, but he's not landing anything. He barely lands a straight. I want to say he doesn't land more than 3 strikes in this round. Klein is outstriking him, mostly with leg kicks, and then he tags him, and then throws a spinning back forearm that lands on Malik's head. He doesn't get knocked out because, duh. And then Malik eventually wins by TKO in the second round. So the fight card is looking amazing. It's looking amazing. It's looking amazing. It's looking amazing. I feel so happy. Then we go to Fili versus Costo. Fili's doing a really good job. Actually, it's kind of relatively close on the feet. Fili gets a takedown. Costo subs him. Subs him so nonchalantly, it's beautiful. Another thing I have a problem with is Costo goes up to celebrate on top of the octagon. The commission wants to take him off immediately. Guys, I'm complaining today. This is the complaining Olympics. They want to take him off immediately. If Fili had knocked out Costo, if he had subbed Costo, they would have let him sit on top of that for 40 more seconds. They would have let him shine in the crowd for more seconds. Why aren't they consistent in who gets to celebrate on top of the octagon? Either ban people from getting on the octagon or not. We'll get into that later, where Bisping wants to complain about eye pokes, but we'll get to that in a second. Then we go to Cutelaba versus Aslan. You know everyone thinks Aslan's going to knock out Cutelaba. It looks that way. Aslan somehow loses to Cutelaba by submission. Insane. Insane in the membrane. Insane in the membrane. It makes no fucking sense. Makes no fucking sense. But it makes sense. It was awesome. It was great to watch. Then we get to the next one. Up until this moment, it's finish after finish after finish. And, you know, when you kind of, it's like a no-hitter. When you key in on it's a no-hitter, 2 things happen. You either get a no-hitter or you don't get a no-hitter. And more than likely, you don't get a no-hitter because no-hitters are rare. And this is the moment where we got a no-hitter. Menifield versus Walker was trending to be someone was going to get knocked out. And instead what we got was a routine robbery, and no one's going to care. Menifield versus Walker. I had this 29-28 for Walker. First 2 rounds for Walker. Okay, let me get to my scorecards real quick. Let me get to my scorecards if I can find them. Right, I'm looking here. I'm getting there. 29-28, first 2 rounds for Walker, last round for Menifield. I don't want to put a close mark on the second round, but I'm going to explain it. Split decision win for Menifield. You go to the first round. Walker's outstriking Menifield. They're kind of going back and forth later, but Walker's outstriking him in total. He's outstriking him. He outstrikes him by 11 strikes. They both hurt each other multiple times. Walker outstrikes Menifield by a significant margin. A lot of them are in the clinch, but even on the feet, he outstrikes him. You go to the second round, which is the googly round. I call it the googly round, but this round belongs to Walker. Okay, Walker outstrikes Menifield by about 3 strikes. Menifield finished very strong. So here's the situation. He's up Walker. Walker is up a lot on strikes. I don't remember the count, but he's up a lot on strikes. Menifield at the very end of the round starts to kind of close the gap on strikes. But by the end of the round, Walker's still outstriking him. That visual right there could have won him the round, but I'm looking at the scorecards, and that's not the case. We'll explain it in a second. Last round, Menifield outstrikes Walker by about 4 strikes, and that's where you get my scorecard. You go to the judges' scorecards, and it's just bad. It's just bad. This is a bad split decision. Let's start off with this. Derek Cleary has a 30-27. Honorable mention to Derek Cleary. It's a shit scorecard. 30-27 to Menifield. First round for Menifield, nonsense. Second round for Menifield, I explained the optic look of, okay, sure. So I won't be mad, but I think it's a bad scorecard regardless. Gives the last round to Menifield as well. Okay? The only correct scorecard, in my opinion, is either Brian Davis or Breanne Davis. Or Breanne. Probably Breanne, because I think I saw a lady judge. Breanne Davis. The only correct scorecard. First 2 rounds for Walker. That's correct. Last round for Menifield. She was locked in. She was fucking locked in. Derek Cleary wasn't. Neither was Saul D'Amato, because Saul D'Amato gives the first round to Menifield. He gives the first round to Menifield. Honorable mention. It's a shit fucking scorecard. That's what we're working with. I'm already heated. I'm heated from fouls from Vanderford. I'm heated from Vanderford fouling people. I'm heated from Menifield getting a split decision robbery win. And then we move on to Silva versus Baghdasaryan. Great stuff. Great theatrics. Okay, the theatrics were amazing. The commentary the commentary is pissing me off right now. Bisping mentions that he doesn't like the Silva acknowledging when his opponents do some cool spinny shit on top of him. And he's right. The problem, though, is that every single opinion these guys have, it always stems from, oh, the guy's not locked in. That's a terrible accent. The guy's not locked in is where they lean to. It's never, maybe it's like part of the game plan to psych him out. He does that too often. There's no way that he's that jovial. I don't believe that. I'm skeptical. The moment that Oliveira was handshaking guys in the corner, I was like, hold on. There's no need to do that. My mind instantly didn't go to, oh, Oliveira's super nice. No, don't get me wrong. I like Charles Oliveira. He's one of my favorite fighters. I love him. Illuminated by God, the whole 9. But the moment I saw that, I'm thinking, no. This is mental. This is slightly mental. A lot of this is slightly mental. And him handshaking everyone in the other person's corner is mental. Silva going, hey man, high five for a shot that missed. High five. How about the ending sequence, which is, I believe Baghdasaryan lands something, and Silva laughs. He does this weird laugh, and then it's 1-2. It's an instant 1-2. It's just an instant 1-2. Boom. Then he walks up to Baghdasaryan, points to him. Ref comes by and he's like, you gotta finish him. You can't just, this isn't, like, you gotta do the O'Malley Almeida thing. And he's like, all right, I got you. Bang, 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 bang. And then the fight's over. The theatrics is what sold this. It was amazing. It helped me cool off. Then we go to Font versus Matsumoto. Okay. 29-28. 29-28 on my scorecard for Matsumoto. First 2 rounds for Matsumoto, last round for Font. there's a part of me that wants to call this a robbery. And I kind of think it is a robbery. But the closest thing I can think to this fight, in terms of the scorecards and how some of the rounds kind of ended up, is Fiziev versus Gaethje. If you remember correctly, the first Fiziev versus Gaethje fight was essentially Gaethje getting outstruck in the first 2 rounds, and then him outstriking Fiziev in the 3rd round. But in that 2nd round, Fiziev, while he is up on strikes, he's getting hit with some big strikes from Gaethje. So it's almost like the judges kind of decided, and even I scored it that way. I remember I scored the 2nd round for Gaethje. Well, I even wrote it in my notes. I was like, Gaethje was outstruck, but the strikes coming from Gaethje were so heavy on Fiziev, you have to acknowledge them as better than what Fiziev was doing. And that's kind of how I feel like the judges saw this one. I didn't see that. I personally didn't see that. But I feel as though they saw it, which is why I didn't put a robbery marker on it. I just couldn't. Let's start off with the first round. First round's an interesting round. Font is outstriking Matsumoto on the feet. He's outstriking him by 12 plus strikes. Problem is, he gets taken down twice, and Matsumoto lands enough ground and pound, in my opinion, to take away this round. It's not a lot, but it takes away the strikes that Font did on the feet, and he has 2 takedowns. So that's pretty much that. In my head, even after that round, I was thinking, that round was a little wonky from an optics perspective. I could see someone giving it to Font, and just looking at the scorecards, 2 judges did. You go to the 2nd round, Matsumoto, this round is apparent, obviously. Matsumoto outstruck Font on the feet, 2 to 3 strikes in total, not on the feet, but he outstruck him 2 to 3 strikes in total. And then he had 4 takedowns. I mean, if this round isn't Matsumoto, what are we doing? 3rd round, Font outstrikes Matsumoto by 5 to 6 strikes. This is clearly Font's round, and all the judges agreed. The first round is the only round that's in contention. It's a little wonky. It's very, very, very wonky. Like, I can see you making an argument for Font, but personally, I don't think he won this round. Mike Bell and Derek Clear, their scorecards are the same. They give the first round to Font. They give the last round to Font. Second round for Matsumoto. And then Derek Clear, Saul Diamato. His scorecard reflects mine. So there you have it on that one. You then go to the next honorable mention, and that's the last fight of the night. Cejudo versus Song Yadong. Let's start from the top. I had dodged all the spoilers for this fight. I dodged it. I just saw silhouettes of Henry Cejudo sitting down, and I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck? What's going on? But I dodged the spoilers. I dodged it. Then a friend told me that Cejudo lost, and I'm like, all right, okay. Well, I'm confused. He lost, but I'm seeing all these silhouettes of Dana's mad at him, and this. And I'm like, what's going on? What happened? Did something happen? Then the eye poke happens, and I'm like, oh my god, he must have quit. Turns out he didn't quit. So I haven't looked at any commentary on Cejudo, but assuming that the commentary on Cejudo is that he quit, that's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. He literally said he couldn't see and went back in the fight. But there's something bigger that I want to talk about, though. Is the scorecards and how this fight was talked about. 30-27. It's a simple 30-27. If you have it any other way, you are retarded and you can't score. It's 30-27. Let's start from the jump. Song outstrikes Cejudo by 7 strikes in the first round. Cejudo lands some strikes occasionally in the first round, but it's nothing significant. It's nothing that will take away the round from Song. Okay? You then go to the second round. Cejudo is again outstruck by Song by about 10 strikes. Here's where the commentary really gets on my nerves here. We go to the third round where Song Yadong finishes with 15 plus strikes on top of Cejudo. He outstrikes him by 15 strikes. But before the eye poke, he's kind of up by 9 strikes. Okay, I remember this because I just finished the card. Before we get to the eye poke in the third round, we have a groin strike. At least that's what they tell you. When you look at it on the board, the commentary they fucking piss me off because these niggas aren't watching. Song Yadong throws a teep that lands adjacent to the cup. That's still legal. You can hit that spot. It doesn't hit the cup. In fact, the commentary says that's cup-ish. If it didn't touch the cup, it's not cup-ish. Cup-ish is like the middle of where Song Yadong landed, which was like half the cup and half the thigh. That's not where he landed. He landed literally on the thigh, but that's beyond the point. He lands there, and it's funny because you're looking at the screen and Herzog sees the foul. He sees what he thinks is the foul. He separates them. He looks up at the board, but he looks up at the wrong angle. He's not looking at the correct angle, the initial angle we see, which is that's not a foul. Commentary doesn't want to dispel that that's a foul. They just immediately go to, oh, that's a foul. That's a foul. They just decide that was a foul, even though we just saw that wasn't a foul. Cool. That's one strike for the commentary. Second strike is Bisping starts to... The eye poke happens. And Bisping goes into full Henry Cejudo PR mode, which is, oh my God, we should take away a point. Oh my God, this is terrible. Oh my God, they warn you in the back. These are things that have been mentioned many times before. The problem is now isn't the moment where you can stick your flag on, this is the moment that we should do that. We should set the standard for it. The moment you foul the first time, we take a point, period. Simple. That would figure it. That would solve it. But we're past that. It's an accidental eye poke. Bisping goes into full fucking PR mode about, oh my God, he has to take a point. Even when the fight continues, Bisping is like, hey, Song Yadong's fingers are out. I get that, they're out. Herzog should have told him to put them back in and whatever. That's fine. Bisping just won't stop about how Song Yadong should be pointed. This is insane. This is full bias on the commentary. All right, now we have Fitzgerald just in La La Land saying whatever. He's just saying whatever. Fitzgerald is just never focused. He's just saying whatever the fuck comes out of his mouth. He's not even thinking about what he says. Let's go over to Felder. Let's go over to Pretty Boy Felder, where Felder decides he wants to talk about the eye poke. He wants to talk. I wrote this down, but I forgot what he said about the eye poke. He said something ridiculous. Give me a moment. I gotta lodge my brain here. I forgot, but fuck, I had a whole fucking point on. Felder says something goofy about the eye poke that this whole thing was just terrible. It was terrible. On top of that, we get to the finish where Cejudo's kind of aware. He's like taking his time. He's really trying to get back in there. And when he gets back in, he's like, yo, I really can't see. He's seeing double. He can't see any of the strikes. He goes into the third. Now, the fight ends wonky because Herzog stops it, and then he has to restart the fourth. There kind of was no need for that. Technically, he could have just stopped it there. He could have stopped it after the eye poke, and it still could have gone to the cards. He also still could have stopped it. He also still could have stopped this. I believe after the third, he didn't even need to restart the fourth. It felt like, I mean, there was a fight in the Apex a while ago. I think it was Romanov versus someone else, where that was scored a little after the third. I believe there was a fight like that, but that was the last time I remember something like that. This whole thing was just nonsense because from what I was hearing from my side is Henry Cejudo quit when in actuality he couldn't see, and then on top of that, Cejudo's stumping for a point take, and the commentary's like defending him. They're just like, oh yeah, he's a veteran. It's like, no, you don't get to whine for a point take. No, that's not how this works. Oh man, he poked me in the eye. Then his corner's just like, you poked me in the fucking eye. Like, they don't know the rules. Like, they haven't been there fighting for eons now. They know the rules. This whole thing was a fucking shit. Just a shit show from top to bottom. Commentary was terrible. Brendan Fitzgerald continues to stink it up. Bisping was awful in this final bit. And now we're talking about running it back. Yadong was up 3-0. 3-0. Now, Cejudo was kind of like, minus the third round, Cejudo was kind of landing on Zedong a little bit. So who knows what it would look like in the last rounds or anything like that. This fight, should it be done again? Probably. Where should it be? I don't know. Do we do 5 rounds again? Do we put this in the Apex? Putting this in the Apex is actually a disservice because I actually want them in the bigger cage. That's 1. 2, putting them as a main event again is stupid. That they don't need to do that. Putting them as 5 rounds, though, I would actually like it because this fight was a lot more entertaining than I thought it would be. It was a lot more entertaining than I thought it would be. When I saw this fight was announced, I thought to myself, oh my god, this fight's going to suck. Yadong's just going to avoid takedowns. Essentially, I thought it was what we saw, but Henry a lot more inactive. Instead, while he was very inactive in the first round, he started to pick it up in the second and the third and was landing frequently on Yadong. So, in a way, I actually do want to see this fight again, 5 rounds, maybe on a pay-per-view, like a co-main. They could run this back on a co-main on like a... Yeah, I could see them throwing this on like a pay-per-view. I don't know if it would be that high up. That's a little wild, but it was great. This whole card was really great, minus just the stupidity of just the commentary. The commentary ruins it for me because it's almost like you're watching something really cool, and when you hear Brendan Fitzgerald over-exaggerate on things that don't really need to be exaggerated, you hear Bisping talk out of his ass, and you hear Felder just make stupid points over and over again. It's not... what are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? Just absolute nonsense. And then a couple questionable decisions here. This card was great and terrible at the same time. But overall, it was very entertaining. Very, very entertaining. And that's what I think matters the most. So close to an immaculate score. So close. The only thing that fucked it up is the Menifield fight, the Matsumoto fight, the main event, which should have been a 30-27. What are we fucking scoring here? What are we scoring? Speaking of the main event, Saul Diamond had a 30-27 for Yadong. That's the only correct scorecard. That's the only correct scorecard. Derek Cleary scored at 29-28. For Song Yadong, he gave the last round to Cejudo. How do you give the last round to Cejudo? Listen, how do you give the last round to Cejudo before or even after the eye poke? Before the eye poke, he's getting outstruck clear. After the eye poke, he's literally running away, getting tagged. I make it make sense. And then Mike Bell, he gives the second round to Cejudo. I understand that's where Cejudo landed like one good blow to the head of Yadong, but then got outstruck heavy in the second round. I don't understand how you give that round to Cejudo. Honorable mention for those two. It's just absolute horse nonsense. Just fucking nonsense. That's all I have. That is all I have. Thank you all for listening, and God bless.